we can now talk to Ian Bremmer, political scientist and president and founder of the Eurasia Group and GZERO Media. Mr. Bremmer, good to have you on the show. Now, what influence does the international community have over what happens between Israel and Hamas?
The international community? I wish I knew where that was. There was an effort by Brazil to put forward a Security Council resolution that would both condemn Hamas terrorism and also urge focus on humanitarian support for the Palestinians. That failed with an American veto. The United States, of course, is Israel's most important ally in the world. Israel's America's most important ally in the region. A lot of the developed world is aligned with that, if not completely. Most of the global south is not, and almost everyone is unified in having ignored the Palestinians for most of the last decade. But that turns out to be something we shouldn't have been agreed upon. And the world is getting a lot more challenging because the pivot away from the Middle East proves to you that you have to continue to keep focusing. So I wish I had a better answer for that question, but maybe I will for your next one.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen Qatar and Turkey offering to mediate. Antony Blinken has toured the region, so has Annalena Baerbock. China is sending someone soon. Is there anybody who's suited to really achieve something in this?
The Americans are most suited in the sense that they have the most leverage over Israel. Biden doesn't like or trust Netanyahu, but that doesn't mean that they won't work together. They will. And given that the Israelis are the ones that are now on the back of the terrorist atrocities in October 7th, are planning a ground invasion that will be incredibly bloody on the back of a couple of weeks of bombings, it is the United States that's going to play the most significant role. The Chinese will be on the margins. The Europeans will be on the margins. They all understand that. But it would be nice to have the regional players involved actively, especially because we're talking about the potential of this war expanding into the West Bank, into Lebanon with Hezbollah, maybe more broadly. And in that regard, the biggest news this week was a disappointment. It was the fact that the Palestinians, the Jordanians, and the Egyptians canceled what was going to be a summit with President Biden in the region on the back of his trip to Israel.
Yeah, he traveled to Israel. He met with Netanyahu, someone you say he doesn't like or trust. He did come with a strong message of solidarity, but in the wake of what Israel is calling its 9/11, he also came with a message of caution, didn't he?
He did. And if it's Israel's 9/11, and of course, in terms of the impact on a country that size, it's much greater than 9/11 was for the United States. But the U.S. does have some lessons. 20 years of war and terror led to a lot of failures. Failures domestically in an overly repressive policy that took away human liberties, especially in terms of profiling Muslims in the United States, but also, and much more tragically, failed wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that cost trillions of dollars and disrupted millions of lives. And the United States does not want Israel to repeat those mistakes. A ground occupation of Gaza would certainly go a long way in repeating those mistakes. I will tell you personally, I think that Israel has every right to want to destroy the terrorist organization Hamas. But I also need to tell you, we're talking about 30 or 40,000 fighters in Gaza, and I do not know how Israel can accomplish that. Especially because they operate within and next to civilians, putting them in danger. Yeah. How Israel accomplishes that without radicalizing far more Palestinians to become, okay, they'll change their name, but an organization that will be much more dangerous for Israel and for the region.
Is that what you meant when you said a couple of days ago that the Israeli population is most threatened by what the terrorists of Hamas unleash from Israel?
That's absolutely right. I think it was Golda Meir that once said that we won't hate you for killing our children. We will hate you for making us kill your children. And that precisely is the danger, that when you're fighting a monster, you cannot become a monster. And Israel cannot be in a position where the radicalization that has already occurred among Palestinians, that has already occurred in Gaza, which has become functionally unlivable over the past decades, gets worse and worse and worse. Again, Hamas needs to leave this earth. Anyone that's engaged in directly targeting civilians, the elderly, the children. We cannot have, they have no place in civilized society. But Israel has to be so incredibly careful in not making matters vastly worse in the way that they decide to pursue legitimate response against those terrorist attacks.
As Ian Bremmer, great speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.